We're going to bring Alan Chambers into the conversation. He's an American researcher who was duped by a predatory journal. Alan, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for being here.
Alan, what exactly happened? I mean, you wanted to get your research out. I know it's important, but how did you get caught up in this?
It certainly is. As a young faculty member at the University of Florida, we had a nice little study, nothing groundbreaking, but certainly wanted to get the research out. And as a new faculty, I wasn't as aware of all the different journals out there. And so we put together our study and was being bombarded by different emails of people saying that they would publish our work, and went into one of these. It happened to be from the same area where the plant that we were working on was native to. And then we submitted our journal like you would do, our paper to the journal like you would any other journal.
And did you do some research? Like when you looked at that, how did you know this was seemingly what it said it was?
Yeah, so we did. I looked at the journal on Beall's list of predatory journals. At least I was aware of such a thing, and the journal was not on the list. And everything else seemed to be legitimate, from the submission of the article to even the review process, the reviews that came back. Most of the process was very similar to the other papers that I had submitted.
So when did you know something was wrong?
At the point where they started asking for money before the process was done. So they started asking for, it was several $100s, nothing major. Publishing prices are well into the thousands for a number of reputable journals. But they were asking for payment before we had finished the process, which was the first red flag. And that's when I decided to approach my boss to figure out if he was going to see something that I wasn't aware of.
How did that make you feel when you realized this was not a legitimate journal?
Yeah, it was a little bit wind out of my sails, but at the same time, it was a discovery process of not understanding fully the magnitude of what was going on, still questioning whether it was predatory or not. It did take a seasoned professional, someone that had been doing this for decades, to help me see through the fog to identify this for what it really was.
So what are those warning signs that you would tell to other people to say, keep an eye out for X?
I think one of the biggest things is it's easier to know which journals are reputable than looking at the breadth of all the options that are out there. So one of my future strategies was to focus with the major publishers and then looking for suitable journals within those, the ones that my peers were publishing with, and then doing that route, and then never responding to a journal that was emailing me out of the blue saying, we have opportunities to publish a paper.
Never responding.
I would never respond to those ever. Only go through proper academic websites, and then the ones that are recommended in your discipline.
Wow. Why share your story, Alan? Why tell people about this? I'm sure, there's different feelings that come out of this, but why share?
I think it's important to be honest with our experiences. If that one story could benefit a number of other people, then it was certainly worth it. And at that point, there was nothing else I could do. They ended up publishing my my paper without my permission, without taking my money either. And so I got caught into this limbo where I couldn't publish the manuscript, and that was the real loss. And so if other people can benefit from that, then it really wasn't as big of a loss as it could have been.
So you caught that there was something wrong with this journal before they published and tried to get involved, and they still published.
Yeah, so the first threats were, you will pay us because we've incurred costs for getting this thing reviewed. And I said, absolutely not. You don't have permission to publish my manuscript. And then a few months later, after I tried to get our legal team involved, they stopped responding, and then I found that my manuscript had been published online, certainly without my permission, without my revisions, even through this round of, we'll say, light review process. And so it was still out there. And then the loss on my side was that not getting credit for something I had worked hard on.
That's got to be incredibly frustrating.
Certainly frustrating, but at the same time, we learn as we go. And again, it made a nice story. I've had a lot of other people reach out with similar situation, both saying thank you for publishing in the science opinion piece, and then also asking for help to figure out what I might have done that they could do to help them get out of this sticky situation.
You've become an expert on something you probably never wanted to be an expert in, but we're glad that you are helping people. And Alan, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
No problem. Thanks for creating awareness. Appreciate it.